I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. F it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
Hurt.
No, I think she is.
Yeah, she's hurt. She took a hard fall off there.
Okay.
Gosh, I hope she's okay.
No, she was not okay. Welcome in. It's the Daily Puck Drop on Thursday, December 19th. We are broadcasting from the Limback Lumber Studios. Contractors talking to you. They got free deliveries, everything from whole house packages to homeowner DIY projects. Largest stock moldings in the Northwest. Old school service. They've been doing it since 1930. Give Limback Lumber a call, 206-782-3487. Visit them online at limbacklumber.com. That video, as you know, we've been playing the Grape Lady. We did it forever on the radio. And then we brought it over here, then we took it away. I felt it was appropriate to play it today. We've played it a lot this week. I may continue it. I love it. I know there are a lot of you who used to hear it all the time and then never saw the actual video of it. That's how I felt yesterday. I continue to feel that today. Welcome in, a Thursday edition. We'll get to the show setup in real quick. But quickly, social media platforms to follow this extravaganza, this award-winning show. I'm waiting for the awards. On all the platforms on X and Blue Sky and Instagram, simply just Puck Sports. TikTok, all of our video, like little clips that we put up go on Instagram as well, but also on TikTok, Puck_sports. Facebook, if you're an old, Facebook's still your spot, your jam, also there on Facebook. And also that QR code on your screen if you are watching the video, whether it's live or later, that's going to take you to the Pucks Posse membership. If you want full access, all of my content, everything that we do, and don't want to miss a thing, I encourage you to become a full member. Full members will get full access VIP content. You can also go to patreon.com/pucksports. Download the Patreon app if you want to listen there. Sign up and join the conversation. Those who are watching later on YouTube or listening later on all the podcast platforms, we go live every single day of the Daily Puck Drop at 10 a.m. on YouTube, on X, on our mobile apps. You can download the Puck Sports mobile app on iOS and Android and catch everything up there at pucksports.com. All right, what's coming up on the show today on a Thursday? We'll have the more on the Jake Dickert fallout. I'm going to sum it up with a few things just that has transpired in the last 24 hours. I'll try not to do the bug eyes like I did yesterday in one of the video clips that we put out. Seahawks must win. We'll talk a little bit about that, why it is a must win coming up on Sunday. I mean, I guess technically it's not, but really it is. Mike Garafolo will join us at 10:20. Mike's traveling. I think he's pulling over on the side of the road. So he'll join us in about 15 minutes or so. This could be an adventure with Garafolo coming up at 10:20. And then Michael-Shawn Dugar will catch up with Mike right around 11 o'clock. And as with Mike, we always tape with Mike because he's got things going on in his life because he's a new father. So we caught up with Mike last night after it was our final tryout / practice for the Whitman Middle School, which myself and my buddy were coaching the JV and JVC teams for Whitman Middle School. And anyone that's ever out there that has coached before, first I just want to say this, okay? To everyone that volunteers their time, coaches, parents, teachers, referees, thank you. And I'm going to thank myself. Thank you for volunteering your time because it's hard. This was the first year coaching. We've coached a bunch, like youth sports and Little League and youth basketball, Boys and Girls Club. This is the first time that we had to do cuts. So we had to cut some kids last night. God, that's just never fun. Yeah, it's having been someone that was cut, made a team, but then cut. It's not a nice thing. It's hard, and so I don't know. If you ever had to go through that and having to do that and tell a kid that, hey, you're not going to make it this year, but please don't give up playing basketball. That's a tough conversation to have. So it was a long day yesterday. Based on all the stuff that happened with Dickert, the Cougars, dealing with that. And then I'm thinking I'm going to get home and I'm going to watch my basketball team. Maybe just give me some good news, basketball team. Please, just some good news. They go out and get their teeth kicked in. So it was not a good day yesterday. But you know what? Today, that was Wednesday. Today's Thursday. We got a brand new day. But yeah, Cougar basketball did not look good last night. Good for the life of them. Could not make a shot. And then the team that can shoot made everything. Does Heckett have the softest rims, by the way, in the history of gyms? This is not making an excuse. I'm just saying they've got the softest rims. That ball hits and it just dies and falls in. It's unbelievable. They've always been that way. Yeah. So started off okay, then foul trouble, and they just couldn't take care of the ball last night against that pressure from Washington. Kind of their depth, because they're missing three. I mean, they're missing three key contributors. One, they're missing their best player. The best player's out for the year with an injury there in Coward. All right, but no one cares about that. That's basketball. The Jake Dickert fallout. I would encourage you, don't do it now, please, because I need you guys to pay attention here. John Canzano's got a new piece, and I want to appreciate and I want to thank John again for jumping on yesterday, last second, as we were dealing, with that breaking news that came down yesterday with Dickert leaving. And when breaking news happens, you got to pivot, right, and get to the most topical thing that's happening. And so we pushed Rob Staten aside, we pushed Ryan Divish aside, because I just knew yesterday was going to be a big day for myself, for Jim to react. It was by far the largest audience that we had watching it yesterday across both platforms. I mean, across Twitter, we had 2,600 people streaming that show yesterday. YouTube was, last check, I want to say 3,000, maybe more, streaming it. And then those numbers have grown since, afterwards when it's over and people go rewatch it. So I don't know what they were, how many people were listening on Android or iOS, but it was a huge day, and I kind of expected that. People wanted to see what our reaction to that news was going to be. But so Canzano came on yesterday. He's got a new piece out titled "Washington State Needs to Do Some Financial Soul Searching," and this has been a conversation over there. Will continue to be a conversation over there at Washington State. That there's going to be a real issue with the Board of Regents in selecting a new coach. And I think it should, for Washington State fans, be a real concern. It's something that was addressed yesterday. You're going to hear a few clips from Anne McCoy. I did not include the Anne McCoy clip about the Board of Regents. I can just summarize it because I was one of the I was on it yesterday. I asked her the question about the Board of Regents' commitment to paying for a new head coach, because there is a disconnect, and John reports it today. There's a disconnect between the Board of Regents, which oversees the school, right? Kirk Schultz is the president. He's on his way out. And then the athletic department. They are slashing money for the athletic department because of the cost and money not coming in, and there's a deficit. They asked the coaches to take a pay cut. Again, there was a pay cut after the 23 season, so going into the 24 season, that obviously didn't, as John notes in his story today, did not sit well with the coaching staffs over there, as he wrote that Dickert took a voluntary 10% pay cut for the 23 football season, so did his assistants. The salary reduction, as John wrote, did not sit well with the coaching staff over the summer and into the season. Said one involved party, assuming this is a coach, that money savings just went to the bottom line for WSU. He writes, Schultz is operating as lame dunk president. Oversight of the budget has fallen to the Board of Regents, and they are dictating what the budget is right now. It has been cut from $85 million down to $75 million. So, part of the reason why he moved on, I mean, there's probably just a lot of factors. And I would assume money is probably right up there. In terms of the collective resources, I think the Cougar Collective done an amazing job of providing that football team with money and those coaches to go out and secure their players. Wake Forest has never had a strong NIL, and doing research on it, they don't have a strong NIL. So can he build that up? Sure, he can probably build that up at Wake Forest. I watched his press conference this morning. It was on 7. It was on early, 7 o'clock. And one of the things that he said was, we did not have the resources at WSU to retain our roster. Now, it's interesting because I just said, and he has praised the collective for their efforts. Okay, I mean, so now he's saying he did not have the resources. I mean, the collective did come together for a deal that was over $1 million for a quarterback. I mean, that's pretty damn good. So I would take issue, I think, with what he said at his press conference today. Now, those are going to come out and say, no, he's talking about the school. Keep in mind, the house settlement and the revenue sharing, that has not gone into effect yet. None of that has. So when he talks about we can't retain the roster, the school can't pay them right now. He's talking to me, unless he was speaking out of turn, he's talking about the collective. So, he took a shot at the collective of why he wanted to move on. I just think that, for Jake Dickert, and I think the animosity that I think many people have for him is rooted in when this whole thing, if he was upset about the money and the resources and the lack of commitment. Listen, he told this to me. This is nothing new, by the way. This is nothing new. I can go back. I'll find the clip and I'll play it for you. It was one of our earlier conversations that I had with him in the season. I want to say the second visit we had throughout the season. By the way, he will not be coming on. I don't think. I mean, we'll reach out, but I don't think he's going to come on. And he had one more interview he was going to do, but I don't think he's going to do that. But which is fine. I understand it. He's open to do it. He's more than welcome to come on. I'd love it. It'd be great. Just in terms of what he said earlier to me. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. He had talked about, hey, the Upper Campus Board of Regents needs to commit some money. They need to be involved in this. So he said it way back then. But I think the issues that I think a lot of people have is when he knew that he was going, you just still had him standing up at a podium in front of a camera, in front of a mic, talking about the commitment that fans need to make, the commitment that players need to make, the finances that the collective and alumni need to put in so we have a productive football team. And then while you're saying that, you yourself are in the portal. And that became clear. It wasn't clear to me at the time that maybe he was talking to other teams. I think what is clear now is after the fact that he was. And what has been clear to me after speaking, one of many people that were on a conference call yesterday, speaking to the AD at WSU, Anne McCoy, what was clear to me is that he made a decision to Jake Dickert early on this year, that he was done. That he was done at Washington State. That he was going to look elsewhere. My guess is, honestly, that he made it before the season started. That this would be, if they had a good season, which he probably thought they'd have a good season based on the schedule, who he had coming back. They're playing Mountain West teams. He probably thought, well, he probably didn't think they'd go 8-4, but he probably thought they would more like, 10-2-ish. He probably thought they had that record. Or whatever they're 13 games. Are they 8-4, 8-5? I can't even remember now. He probably thought they'd have a better record than they finished with. Did not think they'd have the collapse that they had. But I think part of that collapse was, looking back on it, obviously, is a distraction not only for him, but a distraction for his offensive coordinator and a distraction for, his quarterback. Anne McCoy yesterday, I found this real interesting. This is courtesy of again, a Zoom call that reporters were on yesterday. I include myself in there as well. So courtesy there of the Washington State Athletic Department, athletics. Anne McCoy speaking yesterday went through the time frame of when she found out, by the way, when she found out. Now, I believe this is the clip I'm going to play. I want you to pay attention real close, because I'm in here and I ask a follow-up about the timeline. And I want you just to take note of her pause, okay? Just take note of her pause.
Just talked about this opportunity that he was offered at 7:45 this morning. So that was the first time that I spoke with Jake. In all fairness, he did try to catch me via phone maybe an hour earlier. But this morning is the first time that I talked directly with Jake about this opportunity.
And you said you found out at 7:45 from Jake that he was leaving to take the Wake Forest job?
Yes, from Jake directly, yes.
From Jake directly.
Inklings prior
Right.
prior to that, but Jake and I were able to connect this morning at 7:45.
And no chance to offer a counter. Do you in a way feel betrayed, and the university and the athletic department betrayed by Jake?
I think at the end of the day, Jake Dickert was our football coach until he took an opportunity somewhere else. And we have a lot to be, I think, appreciative of a lot of work that was done. But I wouldn't say betrayed at the end of the day. I mean, because I think when Jake had made up his mind, it would almost be more of an insult to try to pretend that he hadn't, if that makes sense. Although I think it's unfortunate timing relative to the bowl game and, finishing off a season and really, adding another piece to a lot of emotions that this team is feeling right now.
Okay, I know she says at the end, no, not betrayed. Come on. Count how many. I mean, that's a long pause. It's 2 seconds. That's a long pause. In this business, when you're doing an interview, when someone pauses like that, they want to be careful of how they choose their words. You're damn right she feels betrayed. You're damn right she feels that she's stabbed in the back. She's got a coach telling her all year long. They have contract extensions going on all season long. All season long about a contract extension that he wouldn't sign, that he wanted to wait until the end of the year.
Felt like he wanted to get through the season and, kind of see where things were at and, really looking at, what he felt was appropriate to look at and to sign. And so I don't know how to describe that without making it sound, more or less like a thing, because it really wasn't. I mean, we had talking about a long-term, partnership relative to contract length. And I think both he and his representation felt good about it. But I think the ultimate piece is that wasn't going to be a factor whether he chose to stay or go, because he knew, what the offer was. And to be honest, maybe getting through the season too, to know how he felt about, whether he would be staying or not. I don't know. Some of that requires, probably some insight that Jake would be the best one to give.
And again, listen, we're going to circle back with her, but again, I just, whatever the factors were for him, I just don't think he wanted to be here anymore. I think early on he made a decision. I don't want to be here one more year. I want to have a successful season. Then we're going to shop ourselves and we will get out. And then I think for Anne McCoy, I think there got to be some serious questions with Anne McCoy. I don't know. I don't know enough about her to make the most educated opinion in the world. I'll just say this. I don't know. I'm just not probably. I got a lot of questions about whether or not she's in fact the right choice here to lead this university from an athletic director standpoint. All right, let's talk a little NFL right now. He's on the road. He's got things to do. He joins us right now, ladies and gentlemen, the rock and roll NFL reporter, Mike Garafolo, from the NFL Network, brought to you by Hartley and Hartley Insurance, your trusted family-owned insurance experts in the Puget Sound area since 1978. Fairness, honesty, integrity. Jamie Hartley, 253-565-8700. Also, Zogs on Fox Island. Perfect spot to grab a cold beer, hang out with friends. Check out Zogs on Facebook and Instagram for their fall hours and event times. I appreciate you making the time today. I know you got things going on. I love the interviews from the car. This is my favorite.
Why? Is there more?
No, I like the interviews from the car.
Okay.
It reminds me of the Seinfeld thing. I love the Seinfeld Netflix one where he did the interviews with stars in cars getting coffee. I always like that.
What was your favorite episode?
A Letterman.
Good one. Norm Macdonald was a good one.
Yeah.
Michael Richards was a good one when they got deep a little bit on because that was part of his redemption tour. Which Richards has got a book out that came out in the last year or so. I want to say I just saw that. I want to read that. It's probably a good
Okay.
read.
All right, I know your time is precious, so I want to get.
Stop! It's like
no,
the third
what?
time you
I
said
know.
that.
You got stuff to do. It's fine. I'm not.
Dude, where can we just get to January? What's the holiday in January? MLK Day. That's it, right? That's the only holiday in January.
Yes.
There's no MLK party or recital or like 7 different things leading up to MLK. You know, it's just you get the day off. You appreciate what the man did. Salute. No gifts, right? Like,
Okay.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. I'm not sure. Yeah. Well, okay. We'll get through it. We're almost through it. I promise you. We're almost through it.
Thanks, Dad.
We're almost through it. All right. I want to jump right into it. Let's go into so I haven't read all of it. I skimmed it. I've seen the highlights of it.
The Jet story.
Okay.
It's amazing.
Okay. It's just phenomenal. Is the Madden rating story true? Is that really true?
Oh, yeah. It's funny. We were convening today about what we'd heard. The Mr. Irrelevant thing is 100% a real deal. You got to that part about how they had 2 picks to trade, and Woody said trade the earlier one because he wanted the Mr. Which is fine, by the way. Like, you can criticize everything in that story. I would have said the same thing. And they wrote it as if like, oh, they missed out on this guy who was at 256, who's on the roster in Denver, and the guy that they drafted didn't even make the final roster, not in the practice squad. Or who's to say they were going to draft that? You get that late in the draft, you're not like, oh, they took our guy. You know, it's not the way it works. But the story is amazing.
Okay, so for people who don't know, Woody Johnson nixed the trade Jets and Broncos for Jerry Jeudy because Woody Johnson, the owner of the Jets, looked up Jerry Jeudy's Madden rating and said, "No, he's not very good."
The implication is he talked to his sons, and his sons are being allowed into personnel meetings and allowed to have their say in contributing stuff. And the Jets responded to the story, and this is not my reporting, so I'm just going to go on what I read. The Jets responded to the story saying that basically calling out any adult who tried to pin this on teenagers, saying that they're not the ones making decisions, and the Madden rating thing is just a part of it, which I think the statement, I'm paraphrasing, cop to like it's part of the evaluation process. Why? Like if you this is focusing on the fact that you've admitted that it's part of the evaluation process. I don't care if it's 100 criteria and that's the last one. Shouldn't be on there at all.
It's a phenomenal. I mean, that is it's beautiful. I just love it. And then I like the other note that I like is that people, even though he's no longer the ambassador for the United States, is it to England? He still requires people to call him Mr. Ambassador.
They referred to him. That's not a behind the scenes thing. In the when Saleh was fired and they made their announcement that there was going to be a conference call later with Ambassador Johnson. And that was a big yuck that day. It was like Ambassador Johnson. And we were all texting each other before the call. I dare you to refer. Hey, Ambassador Johnson, Mike Garafolo, NFL Network here. I don't think anybody did it. But yes, that's been a thing for him. And then he didn't wind up getting named the ambassador the second time around. So
I got to read more of it. I can't wait. I just can't wait to deep dive in the Athletic. I can't wait to read all of it.
A lot of times it's like they write these stories. Anybody.
Yeah.
Some of these stories come out and you go, all right, and you start to dig in. You go, all right, it's a little light, and then there's fluffer in the middle. This was nonstop, just arrows the whole way through. There's no padding to this one. There's a lot of nuggets and information, and you know how much of it was accurate and taken out of context. The Jets would probably tell you a lot of it. They didn't seem to dispute a whole lot of it, though. It was like, oh, boy, not like, oh, this didn't happen. It was more, you have this out of context. That was the Jets' response to a lot of that.
No, I don't believe it was in the story. I think this is a separate story. But Aaron Rodgers says he wants to come back next season, and Mike, he wants to be a mentor to a young quarterback if the Jets draft one.
Last I saw, he said he was going to take some time to assess whether or not he wants to come back. I thought that's what he said this week to the media.
But he said if he does come back,
if he does
be
come
a
back.
mentor. Do you think he really would be a mentor to someone? Does he scream someone that would take a young quarterback under his wings?
He tried with Zach Wilson, just wasn't that effective. And I think there was a lot of factors there why everything wasn't that effective. And maybe it would have been different if he played that year and Wilson didn't. I don't know if it would have ended differently, but that really didn't work too well. Aaron just kind of does things Aaron's way. I think that's what makes it hard. And a lot of these guys, when they're falling off at the end of their career, it's tough for them to be mentors because there's so much, they're so used to being effective Hall of Fame caliber quarterbacks that it's hard for them to, but if he wants to do it and someone wants to give him a shot, look, there's not enough. We're already talking about Kirk Cousins is going to have a landing spot. Now, it's not going to be a clean runway. He didn't even get that with the Falcons, but it's not going to be a clean runway to be a franchise quarterback. Maybe Rodgers is going to have to accept the same kind of situation. A lot of these guys say, forget that. I'd rather just retire. And Phillip Rivers retired and became a coach, and now is mentoring Drake May and Bo Nix this past offseason, who were represented by the same agent that represented him. So that's been something that he's been able to do as a non-NFL player, as a retired player. So we'll see.
All right, so, okay, I'll move on from the Jets. The other big news this week, Michael Penix. This didn't seem like a surprise, kind of felt like this was in the works for a while, right? So Penix is going to start, Kirk Cousins bench. Have you seen, well, I'm going to ask you if you've seen it. I'm sure you have. For people who don't know, Michael Penix received the news that he was going to – this is why he's one of us. It's like the Us magazines. You know, when you go and you look at the Us magazines and they flip through and they go, oh, celebrities shop, getting their own groceries. They're just like us. Penix is just like us. He received the call from the Atlanta Falcons while he was in the hot dog line at Costco, which is the greatest deal of all time, $1.50 for a hot dog and a Coke. Greatest deal ever.
It should result in a marketing deal for Michael Penix with Costco, number one. Number two, he also said after he got the news he wasn't hungry anymore, which was odd to me because I think that would have been Cousins' reaction to the news. Whereas to me, it's like, give me 4 more. Or maybe he's saying, hey, I better keep it slim. But he said he wasn't hungry anymore. I guess he was just too focused on the good news that he received there. So, how many people recognized him there at the Costco? I'm surprised, he hasn't hit a huge, multi-$100 million contract like you do in your second, but you still got a big deal as the 8th overall pick. You're shopping at Costco. Good for you.
Hey. I don't care how many millions of dollars you're making. You still want to save some money. And I'm just telling you, Costco started out here. This is our thing. We've been going to Costco since we were like kids. I mean, it's like, it's what you do. I mean, I remember going there when it wasn't indoors, right? It started, Mike, as a little hot dog stand outside of, I believe it was the Tuckwill. Well, you don't know where Tuckwill is, but one of their locations. It was just a hot dog stand, and they realized people are shopping all day long for food. They walk out, they're hungry. Why don't we just sell a hot dog? And then they did, and it just blew up. And they've kept the prices the same ever since, $1.50. Everything needs to be like this, Mike. Everything needs to be cheap. Uh-oh. I don't hear you. Someone was calling you, and now we lost contact. I don't, can you hear me? No, I can't hear you. Okay. Mike is going to come back, and we'll get him back on. He's making his way up, so we appreciate his time. Hey, I don't know if the stream is down on Twitter. Someone can let me know. Let me know in the chat. It's been going in and out. But for those, if the stream is down on Twitter, I guess you won't be able to watch it. You can always watch it on YouTube. YouTube is always up and running, and I know the YouTube stream is working perfectly right now. All right, there he's back. He's back.
All right. Cool.
Okay.
It picked up on the car, and then I tried to go to the car, and that didn't work. So whatever your last question was, can you re-rack it?
It's fine. It was just, I'm just telling you, we've been going to Costco since we were kids. It's everybody loves that $1.50 hot dog. So I'm glad that Michael Penix enjoys it as well.
How do they make a profit on that? I mean,
they
don't.
Oh,
they don't.
Well, they make a profit because you go spend $7,000 on groceries. To me, a business, you want to make profits on every. Yeah. I guess that makes sense. I don't know, yeah. But the other answer to that question is that everything inside the hot dog doesn't cost anywhere near $1.50. I don't think you want that answer. So, have you had it?
No.
Do you like hot dogs?
So it's not just the fact that you're getting a hot dog in that place and it's cheap. It's actually a quality hot dog.
It's unbelievable. It's a great hot dog. I'm not exaggerating. It's a great hot dog. It's one of the best hot dogs you'll ever have.
All right, now
I swear.
Okay.
Go to Costco. Go to a Costco and just get it. Hell, I just go down there to get it. I don't even buy anything.
See, then they're not making money off you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're not. Well, they have in the past.
On that trip.
All right, don't pander. No pandering.
Yeah.
Okay. Who wins this division? Seahawks or Rams?
Probably the Rams.
Damn.
Probably the Rams. I got the Rams Jets game on Sunday. I can't see the Rams losing that game. It's going to be cold. It's going to be in the East Coast. So it's like, okay, all these factors against them. The Jets just won a game, and maybe they'll carry the momentum. This Jets team is just lifeless to me. Even in that Jaguars game. Now, they did have a little bit of Rodgers-Adams connection. It's like, oh, okay, this is what it was supposed to look like. Was that a result of playing against a depleted Jacksonville defense that's just not very good? Are they finally clicking? Is like there's no pressure, so now we're just going to play like we should have played. Maybe we've got enough reps finally together. Shouldn't take 2 months, but maybe we've finally got enough reps. I don't know. But I would say that the Rams probably win that game. And then the Rams are home on a Saturday night game against the Cardinals on NFL Network, if I'm not mistaken. And the Cardinals, I don't know, man. I thought the Cardinals were going to rise up and grab this division here. And they just, I'm a little disappointed. I thought they were going to be the team that, and they still may. They're still in it. We'll see.
Hey, I know a lot of other coaches. I mean, you could pick from Campbell, Sirianni, Tomlin. Even why am I blanking on the Bills guy? McDermott for Coach of the Year.
Kevin O'Connell.
Where's McVay going to rank if they win the division?
He's probably not going to get it. And the guys that have won Super Bowls before, like even Tomlin's not getting. I don't even know who the favorite is. Is it Kevin O'Connell? It's probably Kevin O'Connell. Because
Give me a second. I'll find it.
Yeah, I believe it's O'Connell, and it's hard to argue against that, right? But it's always going to be the guys who the bar is low, and that's why they wind up getting fired a couple of years later, because they're not the Andy Reids and Mike Tomlins of the world that have established themselves, and it's like the bar is always here, so it's hard for them to clear that bar by enough of a margin. Whereas the Vikings, you say, nobody expects them to have 12 wins at this point, and they've got 12 wins. So that's the criteria. I think Mike Tomlin deserves it because of the quarterback decision and the fact that, don't forget the expectations for this. This is going to be his first losing season, and he might wind up winning one of the best divisions in the NFL. So I think he deserves top-tier credit for it. And that's the problem. It's like, oh, he deserves recognition for Coach of the Year. You could say that about 10 guys every year.
Yeah. Right. I'm looking at covers.com. They got Kevin O'Connell as the favorite, followed by Dan Campbell. Sean Payton, third best odds, Dan Quinn, and then Mike Tomlin. Yeah.
Dan Quinn.
Yeah. Wait, we think? Fourth best odds?
Tomlin's got to be like one. Tomlin's got to be in the top three. If there's a finalist, Tomlin's got to be a finalist.
Well, to be fair, Quinn and Tomlin, I looked through it too quickly, are tied. So they're tied for fourth.
All right, it's not terrible. I don't hate it that much, but I think if I had a vote, it'd be Tomlin or O'Connell right now. That's kind of and you're right. I mean, where's McVay in this whole conversation? He's won a Super Bowl before. He's been touted the boy genius. It's tough for a guy like that to get thrust into the conversation again.
Okay, we're going to see Sam Darnold. The Seahawks going to see Sam Darnold this week. What are the Vikings going to do with him? What are their options?
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities that they bring him back. I don't. What their options are, you could tag and trade him. You could let him go and get compensation for him, compensatory pick, but that doesn't come for another year. So there's options for them for how they want to handle it. We'll see. And then the third option is to potentially keep him there and have him duke it out with JJ McCarthy and see what kind of success you get. But I just, in Sam Darnold's mind, I think he believes that he's done enough this year to warrant the chance to be a franchise quarterback elsewhere. Like theoretically, the Giants, right? To go to the Giants and be the franchise. Now they're going to have a high enough pick that won't be, but you got the Giants, you got Vegas, you got potentially Tennessee, you got a bunch of places that not all these teams. There's a huge cluster of teams still in the running for the first overall pick. Somebody's going to be left without a chair in that regard.
Okay. I'm curious. I think a lot of people out here are curious if Seattle will be on the market and maybe Sam Darnold would be a fit, but I don't know. I mean, I know Geno's under contract, but we've discussed Geno many, many times. Hey, Saquon Barkley, the rushing record through 14 games. He's closing in on Eric Dickerson's record. I mean, he's going to have an extra game than Dickerson had, but he's 418 yards away from breaking it. At Washington, Dallas, and then they end with the Giants. How bad do you want, as someone who covers this league and the drama with this league, want him to break it against the Giants?
Oh man, that would be. And I know the Giants. You can hear me, right? By the way, because now we are on the car. I got a call and it moved me to the car, and now we're successfully on the car. Yeah, it's and the way the Giants are going, every week that something's sort of they're kind of talking to people behind the scenes. I knew Saquon was going to have a big week because of how the disaster it was. I knew this was going to happen. So it's almost setting itself up for that. And the interesting part would be if the Eagles don't need that game for anything, if they're kind of locked into a seed, what do they do with him? My hunch is if it's within reasonable reach, like 115 yards or so, that would be like, if I could draw it up, I would say that would be a cool number, right? Like not 180, that's too big. Not 60, that's too easy. Like 110, 115, where he's going to have to play 3 to 4 quarters to get it done. Yeah, that would be probably because I'd probably cover that game. So yeah, I'd be totally down for it.
I want him to get it and I don't know what he would do. Show it right to like the owner's box.
No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't do. It'd be all passive aggressive, the same way it was the first time around. And I don't mean that in a negative regard. He just wouldn't do it, but he would do it to let you know he's doing it. He just wouldn't. He posted on his Instagram. It was somebody cut up a thing about the audio of them from Hard Knocks talking about how he wasn't going to get whatever on the market over his highlights from that game, I believe, is how he did it the first time around. So something like that.
We got a good game tonight, Thursday Night Football. You got, jostling for playoff position. Bengals still kind of, they'll be interested in this game as well. Broncos, Chargers. Who do you like tonight?
Tough one. I gave you a loser last week. I gave you Detroit, by the way. That was a tough one. Who do I like tonight? I don't feel great about this game. I'd probably go. Where is it? Denver?
Why do you should know? Why do I have to? Come on.
I'm out of the loop on this game because this Christmas crap is
Chargers.
I know where
it's in LA.
It's in LA. Yeah, Chargers played poorly last week. I'll go Chargers on this one. Give me LA.
Okay. All right. Yeah, they did play poorly. They got their teeth kicked in.
And that's the one thing you don't expect from a team that's as well coached. So I'm going to say they bounce back.
Aiden Hutchinson, you really think he's got a shot if they were to make the Super Bowl to come back?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Damn.
Supposedly he's making great progress. And even potentially before that, NFC Championship games now being discussed. But, boy, this poor defense. Right now, how do you pick the Lions to win? Yeah, how do you pick the Lions to represent the NFC right now? You'd have to go Eagles, right, with everything that they're going through. Now, the game, you hope if you're the Lions, you hang on to the number 1 seed. And you can at least play that game at home. But poor Lions are sucking wind right now.
Do we have a Russell Wilson deal looming in Pittsburgh, you think?
Eventually, yeah.
What does it look like? Big money or?
No, mid-tier quarterback money. Definitely. And the allure for him there, bringing him in, Tomlin was in personnel meetings saying, we can get this guy for the veteran minimum. Like that was the original allure. Now you can't do that again, but he looked at him as, for the dollar. So I can't imagine he now turns around and says, yeah, we can give him top dollar. And you're not going to have a whole lot of competition for it. So it's almost like that Geno deal from a couple of years ago where you want to continue with the guy. He doesn't have a huge market elsewhere. You pay him respectable money. You get it done and you move on.
When can we just do away or kill the Pro Bowl? What are we doing? I mean, now we have a trivia contest now. Something with like the helmets, flag. I mean, what are we doing? I mean, and you know what you're going to tell me is I bet you the ratings are through the roof, and they probably are.
Are they?
I don't know. They probably are. It feels like everything the NFL does, their ratings are great. People love it.
Beats nothing, right? I'm sure that it beats nothing, right? The ratings for nothing are nothing. So you do this, you get something. I don't know. I don't even know
this
what
is
they
what
are.
they got, the Pro Bowl game skills showdown. I don't even know what this stuff is. Satisfying catches presented by Snickers, passing the test, relay race, helmet harmony, and dodgeball presented by Bud Light. Here's the thing where I'd like to see. Here, I'll tune in on dodgeball presented by Bud Light. They have to be holding a Bud Light, drinking a Bud Light. And when they get hit, they have to finish the Bud Light. Now I'll tune into that. That would be fun.
You would? You would?
Yeah, I'd watch that. We used to play a game in college, Mike, called Slosh Ball. Okay, let me tell you what Slosh Ball was. This is one of the all-time greatest games in the history of Washington State fraternities. We would set up like we're playing wiffle ball, right? Like a wiffle ball. Everyone's played wiffle ball. We would put a keg on second base.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you get a hit and you reach second base, you had to fill up your keg cup, and you had to finish that cup before the next batter reached second base. If the batter or a hitter reached second base before you finished your keg cup, you were out. And we would play that for hours. We'd play that starting at 9 in the morning. We'd finish 9 at night until we polished that keg off.
And you'd be ripped off your ass? I mean,
we'd be annihilated. Slosh ball. That's the point of it.
Dude, I last Friday? I don't know, last Friday night, we had a Christmas party, and I haven't had a drop of alcohol since. It has taken me a week to recover anymore. Like the thought of that right now.
Worst. It's the worst.
Dude, I didn't have a hangover till 26. 26, I had my first hangover. I went golfing with my buddies the next morning, and the ball was moving, and I was like, something's off here.
I don't know. We get older. I think our body turns on us with the alcohol. It just does. Says
everything.
No more.
Our body turns on us with our bodies are turncoats when it gets into your 40s, bro.
Okay, thank you very much. We will talk next
week.
We
still
next
rehydrating.
Week. You are still just chugging the water. Do you do the Pedialyte? I like the Gatorade Pedialyte's a good one.
Yeah, Gatorade. You got to do a Gatorade. It doesn't really get to you. I mean, the entire next day, I don't think I ate anything. So I think it may have been a combination of the alcohol effects and illness. I think I was sick. So
what were we drinking?
I think
what was the poison of choice?
It was bourbon. It was delicious going down.
It
never came back up, by the way. No, mixing it.
Okay, well, I don't know. I'm just asking if it was going. Maybe you were making an old fashioned. I'm not going to judge.
Oh! I thought you meant mixing it like college mixing it. No. No, it was. They had a special Christmas apple old fashioned or something that they did, but it was good whiskey and good mixers. Like I made sure it wasn't just out of the bottle. Like there was a bartender there, and he mixed everything properly. I said, okay.
Yeah, so you can't really taste it, and it just goes down, and you're like, I'll have more.
Well, then I had a prisoner wine cask finished Bardstown. Ooh, delicious, really good. Yeah.
Well, cheers to you. Cheers to the recovery. We're good next week?
We're good. Yeah. Thursday.
Okay. All right. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Mike.
All right, buddy.
There he is, Mike Garafolo, NFL Network, all brought to you by Hartley and Hartley Insurance, your trusted family-owned insurance experts in the Puget Sound area since 1978. Honesty, fairness, integrity. Contact Jamie Hartley, 253-565-8700. Also, Zogs on Fox Island, perfect spot to grab a cold beer, hang out with friends, and catch the game. Check out Zogs on Facebook and Instagram, fall hours and event times. Coming up in about 6 minutes or so, we'll play Michael-Shawn Dugar, the Dugar Report. We talk to Dugar every single Thursday, getting you caught up on Seahawks football. We tape Dugar because of his kid duties and now my coaching duties at Whitman Basketball Middle School. Somebody asked in the chat, is there a transfer portal for the middle school? I don't know. There may be. I don't know. There could be. If there is, I'm out. If some middle school kid comes up to me and says, you know what, I'm out. I'd like to go in the transfer portal and transfer to, I don't even know. What's the middle school near us? Eagle Staff Middle School. You're out. That's right, Jake. Damn, transfer portal middle school. There's not a transfer portal in the middle school. Man, I'm still recovering. I didn't sleep last night. Cutting kids, not a good feeling. Just not. And that's the first time I've done that. And I did not appreciate that. Now here's what I'm dreading right now. Just to peel back. Now, I haven't received it yet, nothing yet. but I'm waiting for it. I'm just waiting for the email from someone to share how upset they are. And then I don't know how do I respond to that. Hey, it's just keep playing hoops. Next year will be a different story. I don't know, but haven't received that yet. Big thanks to Mike Garafolo, NFL Network. Again, the Mike Garafolo Show, brought to you by Hartley and Hartley Insurance. That full episode up on YouTube. Please subscribe there. Once you're YouTube, we get a lot of people that watch it, but you got to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Hit it, and then hit the like button as well. More subscribers, the better. Also, catch out the full episode on Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast, and pucksports.com. I'm not going to do this, but I want to crowdsource something real quick for our audience, and I'd like some feedback. You can respond in the chat room. You can hit me up on Twitter at pucksports. You can send me an email, puck@pucksports.com. Yesterday, because it was just a full show, really, where we just talked about Jake Dickert, and Canzano wasn't his regularly scheduled visit. He came on, and it's just me and Jim. I just posted the full show on YouTube. Didn't separate anything like Canzano's appearance, what have you. And I posted just the full episode on the audio platforms. Now, if you've been watching this or listening to this for the last, 8 months we've done this, I separate everything, right? I do the full show, and then like I'll do today with Garafolo, I'll separate Garafolo and make that separate on YouTube and also separate on the audio platforms. And the same thing, I'll do it with Dugar today. Full show goes up for the Daily Puck Drop, and then I separate. Dugar will have his own video on YouTube and then his own audio on the podcast. Curious. Do you prefer it that way, or do you say it doesn't matter? You can just post the whole thing all at once and time stamp it, and I'll just go to those parts of the show of the Daily Puck Drop where you have Garafolo on or you have Dugar on, or do you like it separated? I think most people like it separated, but I'm just curious. Because it would save me some time. I just want to get that. I want to crowdsource that real quick. Hit me up on that one in the chat, or also on email, puck@pucksports.com. Just kind of curious what the feedback for that will be. The Russell Wilson thing, is Mike talked about getting a deal done there. Russell Wilson wants to stay in Pittsburgh. Of course he does. That's a perfect home for him, man. Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin, that's a great fit. That is a great fit for Russell Wilson, and good for him. Michael Penix, I'm excited to see Michael Penix play. I just love the story that he got the phone call. Despite the money that he makes, despite him being an NFL star, the guy knows a good deal. This is why I wanted them to get him. I enjoyed watching that guy play at Washington, and I wanted him here so very bad. But the fact is, he received the phone call that he was the starting quarterback while waiting in line for a Costco $1.50 hot dog. You know what, Michael? I think in honor of you, I may just get my ass out today and go get myself a $1.50 hot dog. That sounds good on a Thursday, does it not? Yes, it does. Quickly on the Seahawks injury front, we'll get to that with Dugar here momentarily. We'll get an update on Geno Smith. He's got that. Zach Charbonnet, Ken Walker, Oluwatimi, and all that one. Just the more of just the fallout on the Jake Dickert thing that we talked about earlier today. I would encourage people to go read the Canzano story today, just detailing the Board of Regents role in all this. And Anne McCoy, I don't know enough about Anne McCoy, the AD at Washington State. I think yesterday in talking to her, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if she's the right fit there. I don't know. I'm just not sure. And what concerns me with the Board of Regents is this. And part of the reason, sorry that I sniffed there. Part of the reason why Jake Dickert, is Canzano points out in his story, is, hey, listen, we didn't get much support, from upper campus. That's part of the issue. Board of Regents. Are they really truly committed to finding high qualified coaches, assistants to make it go? You really have got, if you're a school nowadays and they're going to be in one of these power conferences because they've redoing the Pac-12, right? It starts in 2026. You've got to invest in it. You've got to invest in your football program. You have to. You have to do it. Is the Board of Regents unwilling to invest? What worries me as an alum is this. I've heard the Montana State head coach's name has been brought up a lot. Vegan, is that how we pronounce his last name? He's had a terrific run at Montana State. I've seen him play. That's a well-coached football team. I love the offense. Love the offense. That's what I want the offense to look like. Love it. Be a great fit. Remember when before, now they lucked out on this. Remember before they did Washington State, before they hired David Riley, they made an offer to the head coach at Montana State. His name is Matt Logie. They made him an offer. Matt Logie turned them down and stayed at Montana State because of the money. He stayed there because of money. Money was his reason why, a part of the reason why he stayed at Montana State, because they didn't offer a ton of money, did Washington State, to Matt Logie. So he turned him down. And then thus they pivoted quickly to David Riley. I always thought, I'll say this, and I'll give credit to Anne McCoy, or whoever advised her. My number one candidate would have been David Riley. But they get him number two. He signs a deal. He's only making $600,000. Now, again, people hear that only. But for a coach, that's nothing, especially in a Division I job. $600,000, nothing. So Logie turned him down in part because of the money. And I'm told they have a very aggressive AD there. I was talking to somebody yesterday. They have a real aggressive and deep-pocketed alumni that is willing to step up and pay for guys. I don't think it's going to take real money. If they want that head coach at Montana State, I know it's crazy to say, it takes some real money to go get him. They can't lowball this guy. They can't lowball anybody. If they lowball somebody and their staff, they're going to get in Paul Wolf era if they do this. This is what concerns me right now of where we're at with the Board of Regents, where we're at with Kirk Schultz because he's an outgoing president, and we're out right now with this AD. You go make a hire on the cheap, this lands you Paul Wolf. I thought Paul Wolf was going to work, by the way. And I could have been more wrong, obviously. And it turned out to be a disaster because they went on the cheap. You cannot go on the cheap for this. Board of Regents in Washington State, you cannot. Because if you do, you'll get that. I know Bill Moose takes a lot of crap from our alumni. And I shake my head every time I hear it. I really do. I think it's one of. I just don't understand it. I frankly don't get it. People don't like him. Fine, they don't like him. If you didn't have Bill Moose, you don't have that practice facility. You don't have Mike Leach, and you don't have the success we've enjoyed since that whole hire. None of it. And that was because of Bill Moose. Because of Bill Moose and Elson Floyd. Two important figures in Upper Campus, a president that understood that football was the driving force for the university. I had dinner with this guy, with Elson Floyd, the late great Elson Floyd. And I always remember this dinner. It was a group of us, this dinner that he had. And he said, somebody asked him about, this was the time where they had done away with the Wazoo moniker. They didn't put Wazoo on anything because the previous president didn't want anything associated. It was like a college frat thing to say Wazoo. And Elson Floyd brought it back and said, no, we'll put it back on clothing and branding. And he says, because it's a brand. People know Wazoo. It's a brand. And he said something to me. He's like, I want our football program to be good. I want us to be in the, what did he say? There's the top 25 of Playboy, top 25 college polls or party schools, because it puts you on the map. It gets you out there. Wazoo is a brand. That moniker. He goes, I want to embrace that because he said football is the window into your university. Gets people to go there. And he was very, very passionate about that, was Elson Floyd. And so was Bill Moose. And I think a lot of alumni need to relax a little bit and understand how important he was to the university and how important he was to getting some of the things that we have there now. You may disagree with some of the things he did and disagree with how he handled certain situations. Nobody's perfect. I get it. But I'm telling you, those two, they understood that football is it. And I don't know. I don't know if Anne McCoy understands that. And they don't have a president, so I don't know if the president understands it. They don't have one. Board of Regents, I have no idea. No idea. But they could be on the verge of really sinking this thing. They don't get their act together. Other news that came out, David Gusta is in the transfer portal. I laugh because it's just I'm not surprised. And to be fair to myself, when he was on our show, I'm going to play a clip where he said, I'm not going to ever transfer and money's not everything and yada, yada, yada. I said the day after to Jim, that's what he said now. But in 2 months, that changes.
Kids really focus on not chasing the money. Because, like, I've seen so many kids who had, like, the talent, but just completely threw it away because they said they wanted to chase $100,000 or like $200,000, right? My 4 years at WSU have really changed who I am as a man, and it's gonna go into how basically I raise my family and like everything. So honestly, like this college, it's more than me chasing $100,000. And honestly, I believe that if I was to transfer, I would not be in the spot that I am right now, and I'm truly grateful for it.
Okay, so David Gusta, and again, I said the day after to Jim, this is what he says now. Give it a few months, and we'll see if he changes his mind. All right, well, he changed his mind. He's out. He's in the transfer portal. And again, I don't think anybody should be surprised or shocked. His coaches have left. I'll be real curious with Pete Caligas, because Pete Caligas is the interim head coach, former Husky, great lineman. And Caligas is going to coach the team. Listen, guys, I don't think Pete Caligas is staying at Washington State. I think Pete Caligas, who is David Gusta's position coach, is going to find a new job, and my guess is that he'll find a new job in Wake Forest. I think a lot of these coaches will go with Jake Dickert to Wake Forest, and including Caligas, who they have a long history of working together with. And so, I don't know, does Gusta land at Wake Forest? I mean, he certainly would put him on the top of the list to probably go there. David Gusta has been approached by a number of schools. Alabama was reportedly deep after him there as well. But not shocked at all. When I saw that was... Of anything I pulled up today on social media, right when I opened up Twitter, that was the least surprising news of the morning, that David Gusta is now there in the transfer portal. That's 22 players by my count. That's 12 starters. Anne McCoy said yesterday they're going to play in the Holiday Bowl. I get it. I understand the desire for the seniors to play. We're 8 days away from playing. And again, if those seniors want to play, fine. It does become just a real concern when you have that many starters, especially out of the game. I mean, that is a disaster. I mean, Syracuse is going to come in and just, whatever the line was yesterday, add maybe another 7 to it. I think it was 11 yesterday. 12 starters now out for a bowl game that you're playing in about a week. All right. Michael-Shawn Dugar, the Dugar Report. We do it every Thursday. We catch up with Dugar with the very latest on the Seahawks. We record with Dugar because he has dad things to take care of. So we caught up with Mike earlier today to get the very latest on the Seahawks. Michael-Shawn Dugar from The Athletic. You can follow him on Twitter and Blue Sky at Mike Dugar. Catch all of his work at The Athletic. And, of course, listen to the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast with our good friend Chris Kidd wherever you find your podcasts. Time for the Dugar Report. I just love saying that. Michael-Shawn Dugar from The Athletic. You can follow him on X and Blue Sky at Mike Dugar. Ladies and gentlemen, he writes for The Athletic. He's the star. Half star of the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, along with Chris Kidd, and he joins us every Thursday to talk a little Seahawks football. All right, Mike, I need to know, how was the injury report that came out yesterday and Wednesday, and as we look ahead now to the game on Sunday? Good news, Geno was back, but then the bad news with the running backs, right?
Yeah. Bad news is that Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet didn't practice. Ken should practice Thursday though, and then I would imagine Zach should too. I'm not quite too sure on that one, but hearing from Mike McDonald, who's pretty much been a straight shooter on injuries as much as he can be, as much as an NFL coach is these days, seem pretty optimistic about Ken. And then of course, Geno being out there is everything. No shade to Sam Howell, but we saw that Sunday night. We saw we saw him come into the same situation, relatively speaking, that Geno came in 2021 when Russ broke his finger. And the difference couldn't have been more stark or drastic, whatever the word is there. So the good news, the best news of the day, of the week, is that in what is now the biggest game of the season, at least to this point, Geno Smith should be there Sunday against Minnesota.
It was scary because there was a moment when he left that game last week, Mike, that, well, I thought this was going to be something that was going to knock him out for a while. It didn't look good initially, and especially when he walked off the field.
Yeah, when he went into the blue medical tent and then came out and walked to the locker room, that's when I was like, oh, damn. He was able, though, the good thing is able to walk there. You know, I've seen enough guys get carted off where I'm like, okay, this is a wrap, you know. The list is just long of guys who've been carted off, crying, towel over their head or whatever, and then you usually know that's over. If you can walk to the locker room, he was walking just fine, too, now with, like, help. You know, there's a little optimism, but also it's just so late in the year. You know, a 2-3 week injury is your season at this point. You know, something that like high ankle sprain can knock a guy out for the year, you know, because of the time of year we're in. So, yeah, great news that he should be able to play because, again, those snaps that Sam Howell was in there, that was not NFL football. That was not, at least not on the Seahawks part on offense.
Yeah, it was rough. The running back situation, okay, we did not participate right. Again, they're for Walker and then also Charbonnet. This is something new. It's an oblique, their injury for Zach Charbonnet. Was there any explanation how he ended up on it? I would assume this is a carryover from the game, right? It has to be.
Yeah, no explanation just because the timing of the report comes out after, you know, we talked to Mike McDonald. I didn't really even peep that something was up with Zach until I saw him in the hallway. When I was walking to the locker room, I was like, everyone else is getting ready for practice. Why isn't Zach? And then you couldn't tell something was wrong with him, you know, no limp or brace or anything, you know, because sometimes there are just giveaways like that. You know, I knew like Rayshon Jenkins was going to go on IR, or that Stone Forsythe was, because they're walking through in street clothes with casts on their hands. I'm like, oh, well, he can't play with that. So nothing like that for Zach, at least that I saw, but it's still not very clear whether he'll play. I would expect Ken Walker to go, and if not, though, to be honest, they all look comparable in this offense. Really, I mean, they don't run the ball anyway, but when they do, you know, I feel like Kenny, Zach, and Ken, at least in Ryan Grubb's scheme, kind of a lot of the same guy, you know, minus Ken's improv skills, really.
Yeah, and there's some. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's been a struggle, no matter what. You know, when McIntosh has got in there, I mean, McIntosh at times has had some nice touches. Okay, so let's say Charbonnet doesn't play. Walker, let's cross our fingers, but let's just say he doesn't. I mean, we're talking it's Kenny McIntosh, and then it's who's the kid from Boise State? I'm blanking.
George Halani.
Halani, that's right.
Yeah, and then maybe someone listening to this might be called up as well. It might be open tryouts, you know. They call up guys in December. They called up, was that Robert Turbin in 2019? Called up Marshawn in 2019 when they were so badly beaten up. Who knows? They called up Adrian Peterson a few years ago to have him on the roster at age whatever he was. They called Devin Hester in 2016. That was for returning, but. You know, my first year here, they called Dwight Freeney. He was like 37, so rushing the passer. Last year, Jason Peters. You know, some seasons, when I think about all those, they're fresh on my mind because sometimes I do just wonder, like, who is it going to be next? What, like, future Hall of Famer on his last leg is going to, like, put on a Seahawk jersey as his, like, final farewell to the NFL? Sometimes I selfishly wonder which one. I think this most recent, I'm wondering, like, what would it take for, like, Aaron Donald? 39-year-old Aaron Donald or something like that to get a call from the Seahawks. Rush the passer for like a week and a half around here. That'd be hilarious.
Hey, how much? I know DK talked about it, but I wonder if some of the other players did. Obviously, last week, you know, they just get dominated by Green Bay, run out of their own stadium, and then really something that we talked about last week. What was the crowd going to be like? We know what the Packers travel like. It's one of those teams that travels. They got fans everywhere. This paled. I mean, it made the Bills game almost obsolete of how many Packer fans were there. And then just frankly, how loud they were. Metcalf talked about it this week. And obviously it bothered him. you get a sense from the other players that kind of hit home and resonated with them, that, man, there was just a lot of the opposing other teams' fans in our building making more noise than our fans.
Yeah, I didn't get many guys to react to a post game other than Tyler Lockett, whose perspective I really wanted because he's been here the longest, been here 10 years. So he knows, he's got just the context. And he told me after the game, he said it was way more than usual. It was louder than usual. He could feel the difference, so we weren't going crazy at home, or for those of us who were there, because it felt that way. You could hear "Go Pack Go" chants in the first quarter. I've never experienced anything like that. I've been covering the team since 2017. So to hear Tyler say, yeah, man, I mean, at the end of the day, we can't do anything about what fans do with their tickets. If we win, maybe they won't sell them. That's what he told me after the game. He's right. But I mean, just hearing him just acknowledge that, that we weren't crazy, or at least that me, because, I don't get the TV perspective. I could only go off what I'm hearing in the stadium. And I was like, this is crazy. You mentioned that Bills game. Like the Bills, there were probably as many Bills fans in week 8 as there were Packer fans. They just weren't as loud. That was the other thing. And, one of my really good friends is a Raider fan, and he was there in 2022 when Josh Jacobs broke off that run in overtime to win the game. Like, that was probably the loudest I'd ever heard an opposing fan base, but that's the Raiders, and that was overtime, and their guy was running 80 yards free for the score. So you can kind of feel why they were so loud. It was the first quarter, Puck, and I could hear "Go Pack Go." I just couldn't. I couldn't imagine they would be that loud. I knew they would be that deep because I was hanging out with one of my friends who used to live here. He's from Milwaukee, diehard Packer fan, lives in D.C. He flew in for the game. So I was like hanging out with a Packer fan pregame, and I drove him up to the game so we could see all the other cheeseheads as we were walking up. I just didn't think that it would feel like a neutral site game. That had more of a feel of a bowl game at night than it did of a true Seahawks home game, and that was unlike anything I ever experienced. And I can't blame DK and Tyler for, they don't know the business side of it, so they're just like, "Yo, y'all selling tickets? What gives?" That's just not what we're used to around here.
You know what changes it though is don't get down 14-0.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I mean, there's
just don't lose to the Giants. Don't lose to the Niners.
Players play a part in it, and again, I'm not laying blame at them. I'm not saying it's the players' fault, the team's fault. I'm just saying that. You shut them up if you don't give them anything to root about. But the problem is that however many Packer fans were in there, I don't know. They're clearly going to start making more noise because they did something that, Mike, I haven't seen. I can't remember the last time in an NFL game specifically where the teams won the toss and said, "Fuck it, we'll take it. Give us the ball." I mean, that just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, there was an arrogance to that game that I didn't feel in real time until I just didn't feel it in real time. But it was interesting talking to Leonard Williams after the game, and he is actually how I found out. Because I forget what I was doing during the coin toss. I'm not always paying attention, but he's who mentioned to me. He said, "Yeah, you can tell they had a plan. They took the ball, went right down the field, and scored. Like they had a plan. They knew what they were doing. And it was interesting that he, a veteran, was like took note of that. He was also a captain, so of course he remembered that they lost, that they won the coin toss. But he was just like, yeah, they chose to take the ball. That was noticeable. And then I watched the film of the game and just the replay of the broadcast that night, Sunday night when I got home. Matt LaFleur's first play of the game was the tunnel screen that the Seahawks have been killing teams on all year, and I didn't peep that in real time. And then I saw it later, and I was like, oh, there's all kinds of arrogance being exuded here from the Green Bay side of things. The fan base just added to it, but they really just owned that game. And you can tell they came in here planning to own it. For that to be your opening play, and I didn't do much, but for that to be your opening play, you take the ball in prime time, in Seattle, place where I can't remember the last time Green Bay won. That was just, that was a really bad look for Mike Macdonald's kind of his tenure here, like to start off like that, because that's an awful way to start. And now they only got one home game left. You lose this one. So even if you make the playoffs, it's just a bad look. And then if you don't make the playoffs, you got until next preseason, next time you get people butts in seats, next scrimmage at Lumen. That's a long time if you just kind of limp into the offseason having dropped 2 straight games at home.
Hey, what do you think was the difference? I mean, it was a well-called game by LaFleur, and it was beautifully executed in the first 2 drives. I don't know. You tell me. Was it a step back for Mike Macdonald's defense, or was it, hey, That's just a really good offense over there with a really nice offensive line and a real nice young quarterback. This is just something this defense, as well as they have been playing, they just haven't seen this.
Yeah, a little bit. I also just think they executed really well. They got to give them credit for that. They moved really fast, which Leonard Williams also mentioned to me after the game. He's like, they were just hot. They were moving. We weren't set. And then Ernest Jones talked about it too. And you watch the film, we're like, yeah, Ernest is trying to tell Leonard to move to his left or his right, and the ball snapped. You know, he's trying to get Byron Murphy set, and then the ball is snapped. So he's out of position. Byron's out of position. Everybody's out of position. So there was some of that. And I think just schematically, you know, we got to remember Mike Macdonald is, I think, 37. You know, this is only his third year as a defensive coordinator in the NFL, I believe, you know, fourth overall, if you include his time at Michigan. He just hasn't been doing this that long. So he is, as good as he is, susceptible to taking a little L to some more experienced guys. Now, Matt LaFleur ain't a little geezer or anything, but he has been doing this for some time. You know, he's been around for a little bit. He's had success against a lot of different coordinators who come from a lot of different trees. He's coached in big time playoff games on the road, prime time, at home, you know. So he's been around the block for a younger guy. So I just think Mike Macdonald took an L. You know, he started off with an L, and that's going to happen when you're as green as he is relative to some of his peers who are really good at calling plays, have good players, you know, and that's going to happen. This is one of the Sunday night was one of those fears when you overhaul an experienced staff like Pete had, you know, or get rid of a Pete, you know, it's just you bring in all these new guys. These new guys can get out coached here and there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think what you touched on, and I think what Leonard Williams touched on, and also I think Ernest Jones highlighted as well, Mike, was I think it was a real effort. And I'm curious to see what Kevin O'Connell does on Sunday. The Vikings maybe do something similar. They got up to the line of scrimmage, as you just noted with Williams said it and Jones said it. They got to the line of scrimmage, they snapped the ball, and they win. Because it's what you see almost with college offenses where they're waiting right till the defense sets up, they look over and they get the play, and then they call something else based on the defense they're seeing. I mean, that's what McDonald's been doing. He's been changing the play right before the ball is snapped to try and confuse the offense. Well, LaFleur saw that and just said, we're just going to get up there and snap the ball fast before they can even make an audible to what they're doing. So that will be interesting to see how McDonald now counters that, and we'll see if Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings try to do something similar.
Yeah, I think one of Mike Macdonald's messages or his mantras, you know, every coach has their little slogans. One of his is we want to hold the pen last as the defense. You know, they want to make that last call, that last check. And Matt LaFleur, excuse me, like, oh, you do, huh? Well, how about this? You know, we're gonna step on the gas here. And I think they have a luxury of doing that to kind of spin it forward to Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings. They have the luxury of offensive line continuity. I think their same five has started, if most games together this season, if not all of them. So it's easier to do that and avoid operational penalties. You know, you can go that fast without false starts, run all those screens without anyone ineligible downfield, get those plays off without holdings or things like that, which they did. They played clean too, which when some teams try to speed it up, that's what the issues you get into: bad snaps, false starts, procedural stuff. And the Packers can avoid that in a way that I don't know if the Vikings or damn near any team can, because of all the moving parts up front. Green Bay hasn't, I don't think, been impacted by that as much as other teams.
It's a hell of an offense coming into town too, as well with the Vikings. Obviously the season that Darnold's had, but I mean it's highlighted by those two wide receivers who are just excellent. I want to transition to the running game, but remind me to go back to, because again, there's another comment from McDonald after the game talking about the running game that, you know, people are you know, I don't know if they're twisting the words, but they're looking, is there some type of conflict between Grubb and Mike Macdonald? I want to get back to that in a second, but we brought up the defense. We're talking about the Vikings and Addison and Jefferson and all the weapons that they have. What is going on with Reek Woolen? What's going on there? Because it just seems, I mean, you know, he's lashing out a little bit at the fans. And again, I don't follow these guys, so I don't know what fans are saying to him. But again, I can just only imagine if there's something they have a bad game, they're calling him out. But that wasn't a good game, and his coach was honest about it. That wasn't his best effort. I mean, it wasn't. He's kind of feels like he's been up and down this year, Mike.
Yeah, he has, and it's unfortunate because one, he keeps doing it at home. I think he's given up like 6 touchdowns this year. I was just looking it up, and I think all of them are at home. I want to say so. I mean, that's just sometimes that just really burns you more than anything when you're just giving up touchdowns at the crib and everyone pays their money. They show up, they see you, and then you give up touchdowns. And 6 is by far more than anyone else on the team. It's actually 4th most in the league among corners right now. So that part is hurting them. And when you're not matching that with interceptions like a Marcus Peters would do or a Trayvon Diggs would do, like they'll give up a big one and then get a pick 6, right? So it kind of evens out. When you're not doing that, it just it hurts the optics, because when you're not getting thrown at because you covered so well, literally no one sees that. We don't care. We either see that it's a sack or they threw the ball somewhere else. But Mike McDonald mentioned something on Wednesday where he said when Reek's locked in, he's one of the best. And when he's not locked in, that's where things can go awry. I'm paraphrasing. And that's exactly what it looks like. Because Reek, look at some of the people he's given up the touchdowns to. I was looking at this the other night as well. Demarcus Robinson of the Rams twice. Keon Coleman, Wendell Robinson of the Giants. I think he's responsible for like a Dalton Kincaid touchdown against the Bills. And then Romeo Dobbs the other night. These are not. I made sure to name which team some of these guys play for because it's not readily apparent. I'm not naming household names at receiver, and I think that's part of the issue too. No one wants to see you get beat, but I mean, you lose like a go ball to CeeDee Lamb. It does sting, but no one's calling you a scrub. You know what I mean? Jamar Chase gets you on a post route. Like it stings, but it's not, no one's like, oh, we can't pay that guy. Look at him. We can't cover Jamar Chase. So I think that's really hurting Reek right now too. It's just these lapses against like guys you shouldn't have the lapses against. That's where it's really unfortunate. And I think he's putting in perspective, I think, what Sherm was able to do on a play-by-play basis. Sherm never got bored with consistency. He never got bored with not getting targeted. He thought every snap the ball was getting thrown at him. Knowing good and goddamn well it probably wasn't because he was locking it down, but he had to have that mentality to avoid what kind of Reek is going on with. There's all these guys I named, Reek can cover them. Mike McDonald's right. When Reek's locked in, he's fine. He's 6'4", good feet, great hands, amazing speed, usually good with his technique, not super handsy when the ball arrives. And some plays, he just forgets all of that, and that's got to be frustrating for the staff because that's 100% mental. There's no reason to think that Reek can't run with Christian Watson, and locate a deep ball like he couldn't on Sunday night. That type of stuff, it's 100% mental. I didn't get to talk to Reek this week, but I know the answer. It's mental, and the only way to really get the best version of Reek is to make sure every single snap he is imagining the ball is coming and acting accordingly.
What do you think? I'm asking both of us to speculate here. This is what we do anyways. I'm just speculating. Is it contract thing? Hey, he walks next year. It will be the last year of his deal. You make a decision on it. Is the frustration they haven't come to him already? I don't know. It just something just seems off with them. And you're right. There's just times where he looks like the lockdown Sherman version, and there's other times where ball on that sideline kind of go over his head. He's just kind of out of position, kind of looks up, and he just goes over. It goes over his arms, and then the PI, late in that, I think it was the first half. It's just, little the personal foul penalty. All the things that we've kind of we've talked about. So I don't know. It's just been it's been real interesting, and he comes off, Mike, a little bit to me how I think testy he has been. That something else is going on we don't know about, and that's always the hard thing with athletes. I don't know what's going on in his personal life. I got no idea. Now I'm speculating big time here. That may be unfair. I'm just saying I don't know, but it has that vibe to it. To me.
I think another thing on top of that to remember about Reek is this is only his 5th year playing corner ever. So I think there are just going to be the consistency is not there sometimes because he's not consistently been playing this position. I do think that's part of it. And I don't think it would probably have to do with contract as much as like really just a lack of consistent focus because this game really tests that in particular. I'd say corners and linemen because they have to almost be flawless because that one play you give up is the one everyone remembers. Particularly for linemen. Because they can't get an interception or a scoop of fumble up either. So they just have to be perfect.
Yeah, you only talk about them when they screw up.
Yeah, because Reek, the other thing about Reek too, going back to the inexperience, like if you remember, Puck, in his rookie year, guys were complimenting him, but also saying like, man, he's playing really well and he doesn't even know what he's doing yet. Or like, he doesn't even know quite yet how good he could be. 'Cause they were like, I mean, he's playing well, but there's still so much to learn about the position. And, you know, some of that is just recognizing situations, routes, different techniques. And I think he's still learning a lot of that stuff, you know, on top of just being a really good player who gets targeted by some of the other team's best, usually who he stands up to. That's why I note that you look at him against some of these other guys. That's where I just think it's focused. Because if I could make you a cut up of him versus Devontae Adams versus Garrett Wilson versus Darnell Mooney versus Drake London, some of the players in the NFL he's gone against this year that are in the top 15 in receiving yards, and show you how Reek has played against them. But then it'll be like DeMarcus Robinson 39-yard game winner in overtime on the tape, and you'd be like, well, Mike, I'm not paying that guy.
Yeah, because it's, you know what I think it is? I just think it's he sees, he gets up for the big ones.
Yeah,
for the big wide receivers.
That's the human part of it too, unfortunately.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, that's human nature. It happens. But to your point earlier about Sherman, is like Sherman locked in on anyone. Sherman treated whoever it was. It didn't mean if the guy was a scrub or not. Like that's Jerry Rice. Every one of them.
Well, they were all scrubs to Sherm. Sherm was the big one in his mind. He was like, you're all scrubs to me, so I'm just going to treat you all like scrubs.
But treated them like, I'm just going to ruin you know, he came in with a mentality, you know, and I get it. Sherman's a polarizing figure for a lot of people. But he came with, his mentality was, I'm going to embarrass you.
Yeah.
Every one of you, I'm going to embarrass you.
From the beginning too, his first ever start against the Bengals. He said AJ Green is a bunch of hype and bad routes
kicked in that game. That's the best part about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, and I can't remember what Green did in the game, but I mean,
he scored a touchdown, not on Sherm, but he did score once. And they, like you said, they lost by like 20 or something like that. You know, it wasn't close. And Sherm was like, AJ's a bunch of hype and bad routes, and he kept that attitude forever. And that it's as much as like he got, you know, a little heat for that, a lot of heat actually, but that was part of what made him so good, you know, and that's important. You need that kind of mentality sometimes when you're out on an island so much.
I think you have to have that mentality to play that position. I think you have to have it. I just think that guy's got to be like a boxer. You got to talk so much smack all the time, and then just be like, oh, whatever. So what? I mean, you got beat, you lost. I don't care. I'm still better than you. I just think you have to have that all the time. It's that position is just, I don't know. It's that. I mean, the best ones, the greatest ones at it had that mentality all the time. I want to get to, okay, there's another quote comes after the game. And we read into it, and yada, 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 where Mike McDonald says, just talking about the running game, we wanted to run it more going into the game for sure. We didn't get as many runs as we thought, partially because of circumstance, but there were some opportunities in the game that we both felt like runs, talk about Grubb, could have been better utilized. We've got to learn from those things, but we're on the same page on how we're calling games and all that, but absolutely we need to get our run game going. Are we convinced they're on the same page? I feel like we talk about this every single week. Do we just have to wait till the end of the season to figure out what they're going to do rather than do this every week?
I think they're on the same page on like Monday evening through Saturday afternoonish. That's my I genuinely do believe that. I do think like when they're done, whenever Mike McDonald last talks to Ryan Grubb and Aiden Durde, his defensive coordinator, like they're all probably like, all right, ready, break, 1, 2, 3, team, go. And they're all fine. You know, everybody gets an orange slice and a high five and we're good. Let's go beat them. Win for the Gipper, whatever. Like they're on the same page. But I think that in the heat of battle, Grubb kind of defaults and likes things that like he just goes to the other side of the sheet more than maybe Mike would like, because there's runs and passes for every situation. 3rd and 1 runs, 3rd and 1 passes, 3rd and 19 passes, 3rd and 19 draw plays, you know, sudden change plays, red zone, 4th down. Like the sheet has everything, I think, categorized differently based on the situation. You can do whatever in any spot. It's just up to the guy, you know? So Mike's probably like, okay, cool. We have a run for every situation versus any front versus any down and distance. Cool. We also have passes for those situations too. What it's called when is up to Ryan. And I think his default is different in the heat of battle. It was very similar to Brian Schottenheimer, who like, yeah, they have a plan sometimes, but like, I remember in the Giants game in 2020, they lost to Colt McCoy in the Giants. There was no Daniel Jones. They didn't have Saquon in that game either. The whole week they prepared like, all right, cool, we got this plan. We're going to run down their throats. They play a bunch of too high safety stuff. Man, Russ hit one whole shot against cover 2 on the first drive and just kept throwing it ever since the whole game. They just kept throwing it. Russ got sacked like 5 times. They scored 10 points. They lost. It was embarrassing. And later, Shotty was like, "Yeah, no, I messed that up. You know, I just abandoned the plan. You know, we had a plan. It was a good one, and I deviated from it because you have the freedom to as the OC, and I do think they go into plans. They going back to Grubb and Mike. I'm sure they're on the same page going in, but Grubb's default is throw it. That is." Yeah. He sees every situation as an opportunity to show off Geno's arm and get the ball to Jackson. And there's got to be more balance because as we've seen, when there's not balance, this team just looks like one that plays a neutral site game at home.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting. Yeah, maybe this is just the year of themselves, you know, getting to know each other and just kind of, you know, going through that year and the balancing act of it. Coming in, man, this is an offense, Mike. What do you expect to see on Sunday? I mean, it's not technically a must-win, but it's pretty damn close.
I'm gonna call it a must-win until the result of the Rams-Jets game changes my mind. Because I was crunching some numbers. If my math is right, I did all the tiebreaker scenarios, assuming that the Rams go 2-0. They face the Jets and Cardinals over the next couple weeks. If they go 2-0. And the Seahawks were to split these next 2 against the Bears and Vikings and then beat the Rams. So that's just a fancy way of getting to both teams at 10-7. It would get all the way down in that scenario to the 4th tiebreaker with the strength of victory. Yeah. Strength of victory in particular. They would have it. And this game would swing it a lot because they would lose to a 12-2 Vikings team and then go beat like a 4 and whatever the hell
you almost
Bears team.
You want to lose if you're going to kick a game, lose to the Bears.
Correct. No, that's why I think this one is the must win because without this, now you need the Rams to drop a game. You can win this, still drop the Bears game, and as long as you beat the Rams, which you have to do in every scenario. Like you said, if you're gonna drop one, if you're gonna just have a boo-boo or an owie or an out, you know, in late in December. Do it the day after Christmas. That's the day to do it. It is not on Sunday because mathematically, you basically give up the right to be in the driver's seat. You know, I think if you lose this one, so I'm calling it a must win. I think the Jets game will conclude by kickoff of the game Sunday, so we'll know because I think they're playing at New York, so it's like a 10 a.m. Seattle game. So we'll know. So that's important. But until that game. I'm calling this a must win. It is. Mathematically, it gets much tougher to make the playoffs if you lose to Minnesota.
All right, there he is. We'll find out. It's gonna be a wild scene there on Sunday. We'll see. I'm gonna tell you, fans, right now, there's gonna be another invasion. There is a ton of Viking fans, tons that live here. They've moved out here. I see them all the time. So be prepared for the Viking invasion coming to Lumen there on Sunday. You can follow Mike on Twitter and Blue Sky, Mike Dugar. You can read all of his work up at The Athletic. Of course, listen to him on all the platforms, the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast with our guy Chris Kidd. What do we got on The Athletic right now? And then the episodes this week on the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast.
Yeah, I did some numbers diving on the 2 receiver duos in this matchup. Really productive. You know, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. They're the second most productive duo in the NFL behind Jamar Chase and T. Higgins because Jamar is an alien. But then number 3 is DK and JSN. You know, they're 3rd in yards total right now. And if this matchup really come down to, and I wrote about this on The Athletic, it could come down to which duo is better. You know, talk to Jackson about that. Not about necessarily this game deciding that, but he was like, yeah, me and DK care about being the best duo. You know, we got respect for Jordan. We got respect for Justin. They both know both of those guys, but they're like, we're better. We're the best receivers in the world. You know, we believe we're one of one. You know, so I was like, all right, cool. That's great. Everyone should think that. I think this matchup will come down to that because I know Justin and Jordan. I don't know them personally, but I imagine they think the same thing, that they're the best, you know, over there. So I wrote about that matchup, dove into the numbers a little bit, mentioned how big of a deal this is. That DK, do you know this, Puck? DK has 2 red zone catches all year. I didn't peep that. 2. Just 2 red zone catches on
That's not
7 targets.
Not even possible. It's just
2.
not possible.
One
It's
of them was in
terrible.
week 2, and then one of them was in week 6, and then he didn't get his foot down on a touchdown in week 6 against the Niners. So it could have been 3, but like that's it. He has no red zone touchdowns this year, none. That's just inexplicable. Jamar Chase has like 7 red zone touchdowns, so I think that matchup's going to be huge. And then Reek, yeah, I mean, Mike McDonald said it. He said we can't double everybody every time, so somebody's just got to man up and win. And he's going to trust his guy. I'm glad we talked about Reek because that'll be him. And then we talked a little bit about what I'm talking about now in our Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, available everywhere with the homie Alec Lewis, who covers the Vikings for The Athletic, does a great job. So, yeah, we're getting really into the preview-ish content this week. I feel like it's warranted. This is a huge game. And there's matchups that are going to decide it. And it comes down to some high-profile guys on the Seahawks, JSN, DK, Gino, Reek.
It's gonna be fun. All right, we got to connect next week. We got to figure out the time that works best because the holidays. We'll do that. But best happy holidays to you, to the family, and all that. We'll chat next week. Seahawks Vikings coming up on Sunday. Again, follow Mike on all the platforms: Blue Sky, Twitter, Mike Dugar, The Athletic, and again the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast. Check out this full episode on YouTube. When you're there, please like and subscribe there, and also check it out on Apple and Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. And always up at pucksports.com. We'll see you next week, Mike. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Go Cougs.
Oh, go Cougs. Yeah, that was a tough one. Tough go Cougs. Big thanks to Michael-Shawn Dugar, checking up with him earlier this morning. And again, that full episode of the Dugar Report with Michael-Shawn Dugar from The Athletic up on YouTube. When you're at YouTube, please subscribe, leave a comment there. Also, you can listen to it on Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts. And, of course, always up at pucksports.com. Michael-Shawn Dugar every single Thursday with us. And, again, from The Athletic and, of course, Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, where he hosts that show with Christopher Kidd. All right. Hey, What the Puck is brought to you by, give me 1 second, Restoration One of North Seattle as we wrap up the daily puck drop with Hey, What the Puck. Restoration One. Oh, they're going to take care of you guys. North Seattle, your restoration company that's going to let you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. The crew over there, Trent, pretty happy with the results of that basketball game last night. I'm stunned I didn't receive a text message talking shit about the Huskies win over the Cougs. You know what? I was expecting it. Disappointed I didn't get it. Frankly, really disappointed I didn't get it. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com. North Seattle franchise. Hey, when you call up Trent and the boys there, Restoration One, say Puck sent you and say go Cougs. All right. Hey, What the Puck? I was thinking about this as we were as Dugar and I talked this morning a little bit about it, and I think that was more off the air with Mike and I. And then when Garafolo and I were talking earlier today about Michael Penix and him getting his opportunity, and Penix is going to start this weekend over Kirk Cousins, and the whole Penix story and yada yada, finding out there in the Costco hot dog line. I don't know what Seattle could have done that draft night, but we, as we hosted that show, myself, Garafolo, Rob Staten, Tim Booth came on by, Curtis Crabtree, all of that. We did a 4-hour live draft show. By the way, that's coming back again this year. We'll see. We may have some changes, but we will once again do a live draft show the first night of the NFL draft. I was excited. I wanted them to draft Michael Penix. I wanted them to, well, obviously, if he was there at 16, it was a no-doubter. I wanted them to try to move up. Maybe they tried to move up. I can't even remember if the stories afterwards, if they tried to, would have been too difficult for them to go all the way up to 8. They probably never even thought, like most teams, that the Falcons were going to take him at 8. No one did. Clearly the Bears weren't going to take him. The Vikings, had he landed there, at number 10 and being available, what would Kevin O'Connell have done? Would he have taken J.J. McCarthy still, or would it have been Michael Penix? Okay, let's just say He takes them there at maybe they thought they had intel the Vikings loved McCarthy. Then you get to 11, the Jets weren't going to do them. 12, I don't know. Do we believe these guys? Maybe Sean Payton was in love with Bo Nix all along. But who knows unless he had the choice of Bo Nix and Michael Penix. Imagine how far Penix can throw the ball in that altitude. All right, well, let's say that he doesn't go there, that they still go ahead with Nix. Then you get to the Raiders at 13. Yeah, I still think that they take him right there. Maybe that's what Seattle was thinking. Okay, he gets down to there, then we move up. I don't know how aggressive that they got in trying to get him, but it's going to be a hard one to stomach this week when he gets his first start. And if he lights up the Jets and plays really well, and I do believe Michael Penix, and you never really know. I do believe Michael Penix can have a damn good NFL career. He throws a nice ball. I just think he's just got all the intangibles that you want in a starting quarterback. There will be learning curves for Michael Penix. He throws such a nice ball. And in that system, in a system which he was so familiar with Ryan Grubb, that it was just going to be a match made in heaven. And I think for me, and I think Byron Murphy's been a very good player this year, but it's not a quarterback, and they need a quarterback. And it's always going to be, I don't want to look back 5+ years from now and go, and this guy's throwing balls left and right in Atlanta, and look at just the regret it was for Seattle not to do more to go out and try and acquire Michael Penix in this past draft. Yes, they've got to build up the lines. You need guys that can block. You need guys that can rush the passer, but the quarterback is the position. They still don't have an answer for it. And this just felt like the year with all of it just lining up with the coordinator, the new coach, of moving up and being as aggressive that you possibly could have been to go up and get them. And maybe they were. And we'll never really know the true story. No one will ever. Only just John Schneider will. Of how aggressive that they tried to get to go up and get him. But, man, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to watch it this weekend with great intrigue to see how Michael Penix does. And if he just continue, and if he becomes the quarterback that I think a lot of people envision him becoming, God, it's just going to be. I'm not even a Husky fan. I don't even think you have to be a Husky fan. But it'll be a tough pill to kind of swallow as a Seahawks fan, and just wondering what could have been if they could have landed him here in Seattle. All right, that's it for Hey, What the Puck. Again, brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. Give them a call, 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. Tell them Puck sent you. And a Go Cougs. They will love that. A full episode of the Daily Puck Drop will be up later on YouTube. Again, I'll remind you, go to YouTube, pass it along to your friends. Please subscribe to the channel when you are there. We'll separate, of course, all the interviews as we normally do, unless it changes eventually. Maybe we'll just post everything all at once. But Garafolo will be up there. Mike Dugar will be up on YouTube as well. And then also all on the podcast platforms. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts, your favorite podcast platform. I don't care what it is. No one does. Just like no one cares about your fantasy football team, all right? And then also everything you can find up at pucksports.com. If you'd like to be a VIP member, and members get full access to all the content we do at Puck Sports, in addition to the daily free content, also paid content as well. The QR code on your screen, if you're watching, will take you right there to pucksports.com. Will take you to the Patreon page. You can sign up there. Again, little as $5 a month. That's it. You can sign up for a year and you get a 10% discount, 54%. Another edition of Dynamic Duos. Our first one's coming out second week of January. I mentioned it, I think yesterday or the day before. Our first one where we sit down with two Seattle sports icons connected with one another. Graz and Gass are our first guests, and so that will come the second week of January. I think January 6th, I said. Also, coming up soon, periodically, we'll have another edition of Puck Speak Easy coming out. We caught up with the Cougar quarterbacks a couple weeks ago. Our next release will be an all-time great high school football coach, Monty Kohler. And that was a fun one. We sat down with Monty just to reflect on his life, his career, lessons. A lot of lessons in there about commitment, team, your word, Monty's one of the best, so we'll release that coming up very, very soon. Thank you for tuning in on Thursday edition. We'll see you on a Friday edition. Jim will be back. We'll have Chris Egan. We'll have our handicapper. Troy Wins will be jumping on, as well as what I got. Oh, Lofa Tatupu. Yeah, we'll talk to Lofa. Get his final thoughts on the Seahawks and Falcons coming up this weekend. So we'll see you on another edition of the Friday show of the Daily Puck Drop. Until then, as always, we promise to be better.
No shoes, no dice.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for? We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!